at the end of the day, altruism doesn't put shoes on your feet or pay your taxes. And so, profit is the lifeblood of a business. And so, I'm a believer in profit being one component of several goals that the business has to have. And certainly, and for us, that's why our mission statement is that we develop agricultural prototypes that are economically, environmentally, and emotionally enhancing and duplicate and facilitate the duplication throughout the world, because we appreciate those three elements. You can't have, profit and destroy the ecology, and you can't save the ecology without a profitable business. Right. And so we are constantly doing gross margins. We're doing those analyses in order to try to make sure that our different enterprises are, and if they don't make a profit, we prune them off. We get rid of them. Either we're not smart enough to figure out how to do it, it doesn't fit, our resource base or our market base or our whatever our unfair advantage is, and maybe we'll resurrect it at another time. But each enterprise has to carry its weight. For sure, what we do is profitable. There's no question about that. But it's a whole ball of wax. And the problem is that conventional farmers too often have reduced their options by becoming over-leveraged, over-capitalized, and over-committed, therefore, to a certain infrastructure, to a certain market, to contracts, and financially, too many of them have not made a good profit, and so there's no wiggle room to be able to go a year with no income, or to be able to, to make a change. And so, a farm that is conventional, it's wanting to make a change, didn't get wherever it is overnight, and it won't get out of wherever it is overnight. A lot of these are big aircraft carriers, and it takes a while to turn it around. And the bigger the farm is, the harder it is, because it's harder to turn around an aircraft carrier than a speedboat. Right. And so, I absolutely appreciate those issues. And so many times, I would advise a person who's a conventional farmer and wants to make this change, to sell some land to be able to create a cushion to make the change, and get out of that that financial crunch of having no wiggle room. Somewhere along the line, you have to create a little bit of wiggle room, because changing is financially disturbing. It's just hard to be going one direction and turn without losing some inertia. Let's take a corn soybean operation in Illinois. Let's just take an example of that. The fact is that in Kankakee, Illinois, if you were growing corn and beans, if you converted that ground to perennial prairie polycultures and did grass-finished beef, or just grew beef, forget direct marketing, just grew beef on it, you would actually make way more money per acre than you're doing growing corn and beans, even with the subsidies, even with ethanol. Okay? That's the truth. It would take a year to plant the grass, and it would take another year for it to really come into, to production. You could probably graze it lightly the fall of the first year, but then the second year you could actually begin to graze it. So I call it roughly a 3-year conversion phase. And 3 years out, you would actually be making far more money per acre than you could ever imagine making with corn and beans. It's a 3-year conversion process. How many farms can handle a 3-year conversion process? I don't know. So generally, what I encourage people to do is to convert a little bit of acreage. Convert a little bit, and over a period of so many years, you can finally make the conversion. The point is that the corn and beans are being grown to be mechanically harvested, to be shipped somewhere, to be fed to herbivores. Why not just forget planting the annual, plant a perennial, or replant the perennial, let the animal self-harvest, self-fertilize. The efficiencies of self-harvest, self-fertilization, and elimination of all the equipment involved with tillage and fertilization is astronomical. One of the funniest things I do is with a whiteboard and a group of Illinois farmers, them giving me the numbers, because I don't plant a lot of corn. So I said, you give me the numbers, and we do. Down one side we plant, corn, and down the other side we do an herbivore, and it's just every time it's amazing. And by the end of it, they all say, well, why are we growing corn? And it's quite an epiphany. Because the commodity system has such low margins, the people who succeed in a low margin system are the people that have economies of scale to spread the capital intensive infrastructure over more and more acreage. And so, even a small combine costs, I don't know what, $100,000, okay? So that's a floor overhead if you're going to grow grain. Growing grain's kind of like being, pregnant. You either are or you aren't. You're either into it or you're not, And so it's very difficult to grow a little bit of grain. And so because of that capitalization overhead, the people who have successfully grown grain are the great big operations that can, convert it over. Now, if you go to a diversified operation where you have stackable symbiotic enterprises and you, for example, you integrate plants and animals in the system, then you can compete as a small producer because you're value adding all of your production through to a final product. And then if you direct market it, then you even become more financially successful because the average farm is getting all of its income off of just production. Well, that's only a quarter of the retail dollar. The other 3/4 come from processing, marketing, and distribution. So if you start wearing all those other hats, from the evil middlemen that make all the money, if the middleman makes all the money, then I want to be one. Pick me. So if you start taking some of your dollars, not just from production, but also from distribution, processing, and marketing, you can sit on a 4-legged stool instead of a 1-legged stool and reduce the risk of your income.